Good evening. Thank you for the candidates for attending this evening. This candidate forum is hosted by the League of Women Voters. My name is Mary Tintes, and I'll be your moderator for this forum. This forum is being streamed live and recorded for playback on the City of Fargo's government PEG TV channel, TV Fargo 56. This recording will also be posted to the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley Facebook page and our website. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. If you'd like to learn more about the League, please visit our website or find us on Facebook. The statement regarding the recordings of candidate forums. The League of Women Voters sponsors candidate forums to provide the public with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss the issues that are important to members of the public. The League is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any political party or candidate. The views expressed in each forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters. The League posts complete unedited recordings of the forums. Editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Excerpts or edited clips of candidate forums may not be used for partisan political purposes. I'd like to thank the City of Fargo for hosting this event, providing the space and the technical assistance for tonight's event. I'd like to say thank you to the volunteers who are here this evening and to the audience for many great questions that they have provided for our candidates tonight. So before we begin, I'd like to review the rules and procedures. Questions have been submitted in advance on cards, and they have been screened for clarity or combined with similar questions. All candidates are given an opportunity to address each question. Our candidates tonight, Kim Hedvig and Ryan Youngren, are running for Cass County State's Attorney. Each of them will have 2 minutes for their opening remarks, and then they will be allowed 1 minute to respond to each question. At the conclusion of the question and answer period, the candidates will be given another minute for their closing remarks. We have a timer which will indicate how much time is remaining and will indicate when your time is done. When you hear the buzzer, that means your time is up, but you certainly may complete your statement, your sentence or your thought. So we will begin our opening statements tonight with Kim Hedvig.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us and for hosting this event. My name is Kim Hedvig, and I'm running for Cass County State's Attorney. I have been at the State's Attorney's Office now for it will be 16 years next week. I'm running on a smart on crime approach. It has three main components. The first is to reduce crime. The heart of what the State's Attorney's Office does is to keep our communities safe. The second is to lower costs, to promote responsible spending. And the third is to strengthen connections and partnerships between the Cass County State's Attorney's Office, law enforcement, the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, but also treatment providers, homeless health, and other entities. I believe that if we do all of these things, we can have a smart on crime approach, we can make our community safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Youngren.
Thank you. For the last 21 and a half years, I have been a criminal prosecutor, and I have handled and stood up in court for victims and for the community in some of the toughest cases that our county has. I have done 146 trials. I'm the only one on the ballot that has managed a violent crime caseload. In my vast experience, I have also spent 2 years working with one of the nation's first drug courts. I have also worked extensively on developing the judgment to know when you put violent and repeat offenders in prison and in jail, and also when you take cases where people have addiction issues and mental health and you find them treatment and give them a second chance. My family has also experienced some of the epidemics in our community of fentanyl overdoses and also of suicide. I care deeply about this community and the people and have held many leadership roles. Tough and fair is the best way to describe my leadership style, And that's what I would bring to the Cass County State's Attorney's Office.
Thank you. And we'll begin the first question with Ryan. Ryan, for those who are not familiar with what the State's Attorney's Office does, can you talk about the primary roles and responsibilities and how you would show your leadership on a daily basis in that role?
So the primary responsibility of the State Attorney's Office is to prosecute crime. That is, I'm going to say 90% of what we do, and a very important role for all our attorneys at the office. Now, what has been described, my leadership style, is the kind of person who asks people to do things that he has also done himself. I have gotten in there and done the tough things of the office. I'm very proud of that record. Done the trials, done the other work that we have. I have actually worked on all of the teams that we have at the office. There are also many facets that include juvenile court, the property, the drugs, the personal team, the violent crime, and there's also downstairs we have a child protection unit as well. And so as the office manager, you manage all of those teams, but right now what we're seeing in Cass County is a big spike in violent crime, and I think I'm well suited to address that problem.
Thank you. Kim?
I agree with what Ryan had said. The lion's share of what our office does is prosecute crime. We also have a number of other enumerated duties that come from the North Dakota Century Code. We handle civil commitments of people who are mentally ill or have substance use disorders, makes them immediately dangerous to themselves or others. We advise the department heads. We participate in the Cass County Commission meetings. So there's a number of things that we do. I am also a leader in our office, a team leader in our office. Currently, I manage the economic crimes team and traffic teams. Although I haven't been specifically assigned to the personal crimes team, I've handled cases across the office, everything from those civil commitments, juvenile hearings, also all of the adult crimes, and I've had one of our drug courts, at least one, since I started 16 years ago.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Kim on this question. Do you view addiction and mental health behavioral issues as primarily medical or criminal issues? And do you believe that drug dealers who sell drugs like meth and fentanyl should go to prison?
So I think that we can love the sinners and hate the sin. I think that using controlled substances is more of a public health issue rather than a moral failing. That doesn't forgive people from the actions that they take while they're on substances. So drinking is legal. If you drink and you drive, that's illegal, and there's definitely a difference there. Holding people accountable is important. I think that in North Dakota, our definition for distribution of drugs is broad enough that it covers everything from bringing a substance to a party and sharing it with your friend, all the way up to selling millions of pills. And I think there's definitely a difference there. I think that we're fortunate in that we have the U.S. Attorney's Office to help us when we've got those major drug cases. And I have no problem prosecuting people who are large-scale dealers. But I think underlying causes for people's criminal behavior can be substance use disorders that we can treat.
Okay, thank you. Ryan?
Drug dealers, and especially things like fentanyl and meth and heroin, those guys go to jail and prison, period. Let me tell you that an approach to the drug issue and the drug problem in our country includes both attacking the demand and the supply side of things. Now, again, as criminal prosecutors and looking at the fact that we prosecute crime, that is the very definition of our job, it is our role to hold those folks responsible. When there are things that we can do on the supply side, like I mentioned in my opening, for people that have addiction, or if there are mental health issues and we can hook them up with the right people in the community, that's great, and that's what we should do when they're there on lesser crimes or just possession crimes or the like. Those are very important, but those people we can do something and move on, and that's what we do every day at our office, is hook those people up with services. But people that are pushing that stuff, that are dealing the fentanyl and the major drugs in our community, those folks need to be prosecuted and go to jail and prison.
Okay, thank you. The next question will start with Ryan. If elected, what would you do to ensure that Native American and African American youth with mental health challenges in our community are treated fairly and comparably to all youth with similar challenges?
So your question talks about some of the minority communities with mental health issues and the like. Now, again, I have to focus people back on the prosecutor's office. Again, our job being that to prosecute crime. Okay. Now, if we are dealing with people who have, and we've seen this recently, like with Arthur Colley, who have professed to have mental health issues and drug issues, but then they murder a 14-year-old girl, those people need to be held responsible. Those people need to face the consequences for what they did. I'll go back to the answer that I just gave. If we've got people that are in on property crimes, low-level type crimes, they're not repeat offenders, they're not violent. To me, whatever your nationality is, whatever your ethnicity is, those are the type of people that we hook up with services wherever we can. We spend a lot of time doing that at the office through the probation department and other community partners, but we're not a treatment facility. That's not what we do, and those programs are largely voluntary, especially like drug court and the like. And those folks that are willing and ready to engage in treatment services, we should facilitate that when they're not violent crimes.
Thank you. Kim, same question.
Could you repeat it, please?
Sure. If elected, what would you do to ensure that Native American and African American youth with mental health challenges are treated fairly and comparably to all youth with similar challenges?
In North Dakota, we, I think, are among the front runners as far as juvenile justice issues are concerned. So we have been aware for a while of the concept of disproportionate minority contact with our youth. The juvenile court team has actually gone to national training, and they've been working on ways to reduce that disproportionate minority contact among our youth. One of the things that we did while I was still prosecuting juvenile cases was instituted an objective screening tool, because we knew that children of color were being taken to detention more frequently for the exact same crimes or delinquent activity that white children were not being brought to detention. The objective screening tool took out race and color, and it did result in less children of color being taken to the detention center. I think that's an example of the innovation that our system is willing to do, and I think we need to continue to try to do better.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Kim on this question. In certain family law matters, law enforcement is often reluctant to assist parties in the enforcement of judgments as to custody and parenting time issues. What are your thoughts on what can be done to improve this?
Family law draws out the passions on both sides. The orders are put into place, custody orders are put into place by judges, and being able to review them is an important aspect of what the judges do. I don't think that we can be purely reactionary unless a child is in danger. And then we have the procedures in place where a child can be removed from a home, placed in shelter care, and we can follow up with social services to see what is appropriate. But the vast majority of the time, it's my belief that the family law courts and their rulings are what should determine what's happening within those family law cases. And it's not our job or law enforcement's job to second guess those rulings without direction from the court.
Thank you. Ryan?
May I ask for the question again, please?
Yes. In family law matters, law enforcement is often reluctant to assist parties in the enforcement of judgments as to custody and parenting time issues, exchanges, I would assume. What can be done to improve this?
So to improve that, again, I'm going to go back to my theme here so far. It's been that the prosecutor's office prosecutes crime. okay? And so we're not there, even though we're the public prosecutors, to prosecute civil disputes. We absolutely consider, and it's a judgment call sometimes. I've gotten these calls many times from folks in law enforcement. It's a judgment call sometimes on whether somebody has kidnapped an individual. Is there a crime there? Somebody is not following a court order, and we have to pull the court order out, and we actually have to look and see what the language says in the court order. And if it says shall arrest or something of that nature in it from the judge themselves, then we may have to take a hard look at that and decide, is there something criminal we can do here? But we need to tread carefully in that area because unless the focus is on the children and unless they are in danger or that there are problems with drugs or alcohol, then largely we stay out of those civil hearings.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next question, we'll start with Ryan. What are your views on the marijuana legislation initiative on the November ballot here in North Dakota?
Thank you. The voters are going to decide this issue. Now, I am not and would not lead an activist's office, okay? So it's not our job to decide if it's going to stay status quo or if it's going to move into something different. The status quo as it is right now is that possession for less than a half ounce of marijuana is an infraction, and we routinely recommend a $100 fine. That is the status of our law right now. So any of the hyperbole about people going to prison or other things that might be out there right now in the national dialogue is not what happens in Cass County. Now, once the voters decide that issue, then that will give us the guidance as to what we decide to do. It does not come without costs, and I think people should understand that as well, that anytime you put more substances out there, you may have issues with more addiction that put strains on our resources. You might also have more to do with intoxicated drivers or the like on the road, and that puts strain on our resources. So all of those things just need to be fully considered, and everybody needs to think them through.
Okay. Kim?
When we talk about freeing up resources, I think that we still are prosecuting marijuana cases every day. And the lower level offenses, yes, they start out as infractions, but if you get a couple of them, it becomes a B misdemeanor and you can arrest people for those. A lot of people have marijuana convictions on their records that impact their daily lives. And like we've talked about, violent crime is a concern in our community right now. Every time law enforcement is responding to a call about marijuana, that's taking time away from when they could be responding to a violent crime call. I absolutely agree that if we legalize, if the voters decide to legalize marijuana, we're going to have to figure out what that looks like as far as regulation, how it will impact employers, how it will impact our driving laws. There's no question we're going to have to look at some things.
Thank you. Okay, this question will start with Kim. Is there a role for the state's attorney's office to help reduce recidivism rates in the county?
Absolutely. I think that our office handles over 8,000 cases a year. And it's important for us to not only be effective in the courtroom, but also to look at what we can do outside of the courtroom to either stop people from getting involved in the criminal justice system in the first place, or to minimize that impact and hopefully pull them out as quickly as possible, but then also support things on the back end. So if people are re-entering into the community, what does that look like to help cut down on people committing new offenses? I think there are a variety of things that prosecutors can do to aid in those things. We are in a unique position because we have access to the courts, we have access to law enforcement, we have access to the Department of Transportation. Something as simple as helping somebody get a photo ID takes me a couple minutes to make a call that it might take that homeless person a long time to establish. And something like a photo ID is a huge help to a person trying to get housing and a job and all of those things. Our office can have a big impact all the way around.
Thank you. Ryan, same question.
So we had an experiment here a couple of years ago called COVID. And what we did with that was we let a lot of people out. The sheriff's here in the audience tonight, and I remember working with him and working with some of the captains at the jail in trying to minimize close contact between inmates. What we saw in a lot of instances with repeat and violent criminals was they went right back out on the street and did the same thing again. I can recall cases of individuals that had 5, 6, and 7 felonies before they were actually kept in custody. That was part of the recidivism that I'm talking about here. We as the system is there for a reason, and it plays an important role of taking people out of an immediate situation, taking people away from immediate danger, and putting them into a system where they can be more controlled. I think that can be very valuable, but on the drug side, there's a ton we can do there as well. We do in drug court, the community supervision unit, also with pretrial release, we do some things there that are very valuable to keep people in jobs and doing things in families with responsibilities to kids that will also keep them from reoffending. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this question will start with Ryan. What is the role of the state's attorney in protecting citizens' access to the ballot and protection from any intimidation of voters or election workers?
It's very important. I mean, this is a fundamental right for all of us, is the right to vote. And no doubt, many of us put on the top of our civic responsibilities jury service and voting. And here we are. Nobody knows this better than Kim and I sitting up here at this table running for office. And so for the folks that are valid voters in a valid jurisdiction, that's very important. And whether it's ID issues or the like, I've seen some stuff come out from our office and from the election commissions and stuff right now where folks can petition if they have some issues with their IDs and some other things, they can vote and then they can be held off to the side. But intimidation, of course, if it raises to the level of a crime, that's where prosecutors step in, that's where sheriffs and other law enforcement step in, and that's a process that is very sacred to us and one that we have to protect.
Thank you. Kim, same question.
I agree that we need to be protecting people's rights to vote. It was very concerning to me when I heard that people who were new Americans in particular were having a very difficult time casting ballots during the primary election. I think that we need to be, our office actually helps to train people who work at the polls. And I think it's very important to make sure that they're all trained uniformly so that they treat people with the last name Johnson the same way that they would treat somebody who's named Muhammad. If they're asking for a photo ID for one, they should ask that for the other, and they shouldn't make the barriers higher based on people who don't look Scandinavian Midwestern. I think it's extremely important that we protect the integrity of our elections, and our office can do a part in that, in making sure that we're doing appropriate training and holding people accountable if things aren't going well at the polls.
Thank you. We have several questions here that address the needs of the defendant or the victim. So essentially, how would you ensure that individuals who enter the state's courts receive equal access to justice? And we'll start with Kim.
Well, it goes right back to the answer I gave before. We should be treating people the same, regardless of their last name, regardless of the color of their skin. When we look at cases in our office, they all come over as black and white reports. A lot of times I don't know what the background is of the person that I'm reviewing a case on to determine what charges are appropriate. But I think at the same time, we have to be aware that there is implicit bias. People have it. And it's important to recognize that and to figure out what you can do to counteract that. I think it's important that ongoing training occur so that people working on our field understand that they have those biases and treat defendants the same, no matter what their country of origin is, what their background is. Everyone should be treated the same.
Thank you. Ryan?
I think Yeah, thank you. I think one of the things that people don't realize from the outside, and this isn't something you would necessarily see on a TV show like Law and Order, is that crime is committed by people on their own communities and on their own families. Okay, why is that important to this conversation? Because when those folks come into our office or file police reports and ask for us to stand up for them for justice and to fight for their rights, we do it. That's what we do. That is, I will tell you, when I started my career, I started in a major downtown metro city in the United States. Some of the parts of town, I was a minority. That didn't matter because the victims that I had, the defendants that I had, were from the same communities. And those types of things for us and for me were very important to stand up for them. And I garnered a lot of respect for the work that I've done over the years with jury trials and with victims and victim organizations like Rape and Abuse.
Thank you. This concludes the question and answer portion of the forum already. Thank you again, candidates, for participating. And for the audience at home, if you'd like to continue learning more about your candidates, the League has partnered with Forum Communications to present the Vote411.org Voters Guide, online guide, to help you learn more about North Dakota candidates' positions on important issues. So stay tuned to the forum and the League's Facebook page. The voter guide is live now on vote411.org. We will start with closing remarks from Ryan, please, and you have 1 minute.
For the last 21 and a half years, I have been a criminal prosecutor. It has been my life's work and passion. I am tough and I am fair. The Cass County State's Attorney's Office has a lot of great people that work there, from clerks and receptionists to legal assistants to victim witness advocates, and also to the attorneys. With that passion and that dedication that I have for our work, I would hope to lead with inspiration. Tough and fair, that would be my approach. I want to thank you to the League of Women Voters for setting up this forum for us. And also you can visit my Facebook and website at youngrenforstatesattorney.com. And I ask that you vote for me on November 8th. And it also happens to be my birthday. So that's the only present I want this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim?
Well, thank you also for the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum. I think it's important for people to tune in to what's going on with the local elections, because we have an impact on what happens to people every day here in Cass County. I would ask people if there is something about the Smart on Crime message that resonates with you, if you like the ideas that I have and the vision that I have, please check out my website. Please Google Kim Hegvik. It's there, Kim for Cass County. I have a Facebook account, Kim for Cass County. And please reach out to me, because yard signs are great and digital billboards are fantastic, but they don't vote. So please keep me in mind on November 8th. Also, early voting begins on October 31st, and absentee voting is going on right now. And don't feel bad if you take away Ryan's birthday present.
Thank you. And as we have received so many good questions from the audience, we didn't get to all of them. But do reach out to the candidates and ask them your questions directly. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you, and we should give our candidates a round of applause.